This tutorial is going to go over some of the common mistakes that students make when writing their thank you letter for composition for English 102. So the first thing that you see on the sample over here is a notice reminding you that your text should be centered vertically on the page. There's no fancy way to do that. Just put your cursor at the top and kind of space down until you have the same approximate amount of white space at the top and at the bottom. You may have to adjust this later on if you revise your paragraph and add a lot of material or take a lot out. The next thing to keep in mind is that there should be no abbreviations. So anywhere that you've abbreviated road or street or drive, you want to write those out. Also make sure that your date is written out. Make sure that you're using single spacing here, here, and here. Actually, the whole thing should be single spaced. You should just add in blank lines to make this spacing happen the way that it does on the sample. So you might say that there's no extra line between these, and if you check your spacing, it says single. So why can't I get it to look like it does here? So the secret is that Microsoft Word and Google Drive will often add in kind of a default line if they think that you're starting a new paragraph. So the way to fix that is to use this spacing function and change down here. It might say remove space before or remove space after, but either way, just hit remove space, and then you'll see that it gives you a true single spacing. So this first part is your address and the date that you're sending the letter. In your case, it's the date you're sending it to your instructor, not that you're sending it to the person. The next part here is the inside address. This is the address that you're sending the letter to, or that I'm going to be sending the letter to. This next part here is the greeting or the salutation. This is who you're going to be writing the letter to. Make sure that that is spaced so that it's separate from the inside address, and it should have a colon, not a semicolon, not a comma, after it. Your body should include 3 paragraphs, and we are going to use what's called block formatting, which means that all 3 of the paragraphs are left justified with no indentation, and you just insert a blank line between them to indicate the paragraph break. The first paragraph should just be one quick sentence. It should express your appreciation, and you should make sure that you include the date of the interview. Your next paragraph should talk about 3 things that you learned. Because this experience is supposed to help you develop your own ideas about your career field, make sure that you're writing about things that are appropriate. So in this case, she's saying you have worked with both children and adults, and you provided me with valuable insights about the advantages and disadvantages. So that's one thing that you gained. You were able to balance home life and children along with taking college courses, which is what I hope to achieve. So again, that you're thanking them for letting them know that this is possible. The third one says you began your employment at Connections 2 years ago as an LPN, and last year when you graduated as an RN, you received 4 job offers. That is a testament of your hard work. While this is a nice sentiment to kind of remind them of, this is not necessarily something that you have learned about your career field. So I would actually, if I were grading this, I would recommend taking that sentence out and including something else that you learned that is going to be beneficial to you in some way. If we look at this next paragraph, we have, I would again like to thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. So your third paragraph should show appreciation once more and should only be 1 or 2 sentences. In this example, we have the one sentence saying thank you again, but then we have this, I learned about some great innovations in the nursing field that are really exciting. So I actually would suggest taking this out here and putting it in here, because that can be your third item that you learned. I also would avoid being this vague and actually include some information. I learned about some great innovations like robot nurses that are really exciting. That's a little bit more specific. And now you have this last paragraph, which is one sentence, thank you, kind of quick, easy, and to the point. Make sure that you have a space between your last body paragraph and the closing. Make sure that you have several spaces. If you are going to print this out and sign this with a pen, make sure that you leave yourself 3 or 4 spaces between sincerely and your typed name. If this is an online class and you're sending this to me and I'm going to print it out and send it, then what you need to do is type your name and change the font so that it looks like something scripty. You can make it a little bit bigger too if you want. Okay, so that it looks like a signature. Obviously, we know it's not a real signature, but we're indicating that this is supposed to stand in place of a signature. Now, since we changed the spacing and we moved things around a little bit, I would just double check and make sure that it's still centered on the page. It looks a little bit funny to have all that blank space at the top, but that's how you space a business letter, a formal letter. So I know this has been kind of a long tutorial, but this does cover most of the biggest mistakes that students make. So I recommend that you just take a look through your letter, read it out loud, make sure that it's coherent and that it's professional, make sure that you're being focused and clear and to the point. You can write in small, concise sentences. You don't have to write in big, long, complicated sentences that could potentially either be confusing or that might be grammatically incorrect. I would prefer that you stay brief and concise because that's easier to understand sometimes. Good luck, and I hope you had a great interview.